Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we are going to dive into the buzz of the town, which is n8n, an AI-powered workflow automation platform that's actually changing the way businesses operate by eliminating those repetitive manual tasks that take, say, a few minutes of our time or more, and gives you the power to build complex automations that too without writing a single line of code. Now, whether you are in sales, marketing, operations, or any business function, and you want to automate certain small tasks that you feel are manual, then n8n is the platform you need to choose. We have recently started this series, and this is our very first part wherein we are going to introduce how to use n8n using a simple use case. This use case is about how can we automate a simple journey in the entire sales process so that you get more time to do the outreach. Like, for example, when you call a prospect and after having that conversation, the prospect says that please share more details over an email. Now, obviously, what you would do is that you would open your inbox, add the email ID, draft the email, send the email. Now, this might take 2 to 3 minutes, right? But when you are handling multiple leads, say in a day 20, 30 leads told you to do this, then that compounds into multiple hours of repetitive work every single day. This is exactly where we'll use n8n to simplify this entire journey. So say for example, you have a lead data set where you have to do the outreach, you have the email ID of the person, and let's define a simple flow wherein you have approached the prospect has requested for an email, you draft and you send the email. This is a very simple workflow that we're going to start in automating today using n8n. So when you sign up on n8n and go to their platform, it'll first of all ask you to create a workflow. So you'll create the workflow from scratch, wherein the first step is to add a trigger point. What is a trigger point? A trigger point is the initial or the starting point of the entire workflow to start executing. Now, in this case, as you can see, what I would want to automate or how would I want to start automating is by triggering on change in status. So say for example, I have the status not contacted, send email and not interested. What I want to do is that say if I approach this particular prospect and as soon as I change the status to send email, it should execute and send that email on its own so that I can then move on to the next prospect for outreach. That is how I want my workflow to look like. So step one is I would want to integrate or add the trigger in the Google Sheet itself. So what I'm going to do is I'll just simply search for Google Sheet over here and I'll see that the trigger that I want should be on updating or adding of a row. So I'll take that. The step one that you need to do over here is you need to log in to your account. So I've already logged into my account. Then I want the sheet to be or rather the workflow to be updated every single minute. So that is the frequency in which I want to run it. Now there is a document part wherein I'll have to select the data that is there. So this is my lead data. So I'll select that particular sheet. Then from that list, what do I want to select is in which sheet do I want to work on. So that's the lead data sheet that I have that I want to work on. Now over here, I want to trigger based on the row added or updated. So in any and every single case, say for example, I am updating over here the status, then it should take that as a new entry and it should trigger the entire workflow. Now let me just test it out. So when I click on fetch test event, what it does is it extracts the data points that are there in the particular sheet and gives it to me over here. Now as you can see, the status, email sent status, these are empty. What I do over here is I'll just simply say change the status over here to send email and I'll again test it out to see whether it has taken the updated entry or not. So as you can see over here, it has updated it. So my first step over here is done, that is it is triggering as soon as there is a change in the status. Now what I need to do is I'll just quickly see in terms of an option which column do I actually want to see. So over here I want to map or rather trigger it based on the status column. So I'll just click on columns to watch to have it narrowed down and select the status column over here. So this means my trigger condition is done. Once this is done, comes the next step wherein what I need to do is I just need to add a conditional step over here that if a particular status is send email, then it should send email. So I'll click on flow over here. I'll click on if condition. So what it's asking over here is put in the condition, that is the value against which I want to match things. So I want to map it against the status. So I'll just simply drag and drop the status that I have over here from my columns in the Google Sheet. And is equal to, so over here I need to enter the value. So my status over here should be send email. So I'll just copy this and I'll put that exact value over here. And I'll click on executing the step. So as you can see over here, once it's executed, so this particular entry has that status mentioned. So I have that over here in my if condition. So this is how you can create that entire flow. Now I would also want to add one more condition over here that, say for example, I have changed the status to send email and the workflow gets executed and the email is sent. So I would want to add one more condition over here saying that if there is email sent mentioned over here in the email sent status, then it should not resend to this particular person again. So this stops it from duplicating that task again and again. So I'll just quickly add one more condition wherein I'll add email sent status is empty. And I have my condition for if else ready over here. So once this is done, I'll just quickly execute the step and I have it done. Now I have two things over here. I have my if condition, that is if it is true, then what is the next step? So the next step comes in that I want to send an email. So I'll click on the add button over here. I'll type Gmail because I have integrated my Gmail account. Now as you can see over here, there are multiple things that it offers. In our case, we are just simply going to take send a message as the next action point. So I have my Gmail account added over here. The thing that I want to do is send a message. So whom do I want to send to? Over here, what I have to do is I have to drop in the email ID of the person that I want to send the email to. Next is adding the subject line. Now, if I want to actually have a customized subject line mentioned over here, instead of a fixed subject line, I'll click on expressions and I will open that entire text box over here to then enter the subject line that I'm looking for. So ideally, if I say want to add the subject line as company name dash thanks for connecting over call. So that say becomes my subject line that I want to do, where I want to customize based on that particular company or that particular person. I can do that. Okay. So this is how I have added my say subject line. Now I also want to add my message. So I have, again, I'll go to expressions. I'll expand over here. Now this is my message. So I'll just write the first name over here as an expression. So I'll just drag and drop it over here. I have it over here and I'll format this as per how I want it to look like. And then I'll have my intro email ready. Now I have two options over here. I can either have the email in an HTML format or a text format. So ideally I would prefer having it in a text format because that way there is a proper formatting that gets done. So this is how my email subject line is there. My email draft is created and I can test this out. So when I click on execute test, what I'm getting is that email is sent. So I can then go to my inbox, check whether the email was sent or not and how did it go. So this way I am able to see in my inbox as well that this is how the email looks like, and if there is any other formatting that needs to be done, I can do that. So over here, my entire journey, right from changing the status to sending the email, get simplified in just 3 steps. But what if I actually also want to automate updating this particular sheet with saying that once the email is sent, I want to also have the status updated over here automatically that the email was sent. So then I can click over here and add one more step wherein again I want to create an update. So I want this workflow to also update a particular entry in the sheet. So that is exactly what I can do over here by clicking on the update row in sheet. So over here I have the account linked. I will just quickly select the sheet that I want to update by clicking over here. I have my lead data inputted. I'll click on the sheet that I'm looking for, that is again the lead data, and I'll manually map which is the column that I want to match on. So I'll map it with the email ID so that there is no duplication and it exactly maps with the email ID where the email has been sent. And lastly, what do I want to update is I want to update the email sent status. So over here, as you can see, there is the sent status. I'll just drag and drop it over here. So what is happening is if the email is sent and when I click on executing this particular step, It gets updated onto my Google Sheet, wherein now I can see that the email sent status for that particular status has been updated to sent. So this is how my entire workflow gets executed. Now there is one another aspect that I want to do over here is that in case if say for example the status is blank or it is not send email. So over there what I can do is that I can put a no operations or do nothing end note, wherein this particular step just doesn't do anything but it ensures that the entire workflow is complete. So this is how I have created a very simple workflow using n8n, which reduces an hour or two of my daily manual tasks of sending emails to the leads who have shown interest, and that too with customization of the name and their company. I can even further do or expand on this use case by ensuring that a complete follow-up sequence is also automated using this. So this is the power of n8n, wherein within minutes, within seconds, you are able to automate such basic workflows that can save you time. So if you found this helpful and if you are interested in exploring what other use cases n8n can offer, please do put them in the comment. We are going to make a bunch of videos on this. And thank you so much for watching this video.